The Super Nintendo was my first console. I still remember that Christmas morning opening that strangely large box. I'd played video games before, but this was where my love for them began. My Super Nintendo came with Super Mario World, and I played that game to death. It was the first game I 100% completed, no internet, no guides. There was nothing like that sense of achievement I got loading up that game and seeing the blue 96. I loved the challenge of searching through each level trying to find that secret exit. Even back then I was a mad Star Wars fan and my parents knew just what to get me for my birthday. A brand new copy of Super Star Wars. I have some good memories playing through Super Star Wars. Let's see how it holds up in episode 2 of Star Wars Playtime. Looking back at it, I think Super Star Wars was the first Star Wars game I ever played seriously, although I was playing X-Wing around that time as well. My memory not being what it was, I doubt we'll ever really know which one I played first. Unless my parents were paying attention to my video game habits.
Mum? Dad? Do you remember which game I played first? No, not the Nintendo. Well, yeah, technically the Nintendo, but maybe the computer. Do you know which one? Seriously? Star Trek? What the hell?
Yeah, that's a no from them. Unfortunately, I don't have access to a Super Nintendo anymore, and I don't own a PS4 where it got a digital re-release in 2015. But I do have a Super Nintendo Classic, which I've modded to take a Super Star Wars ROM, which means I get to experience the game with the original Super Nintendo controller. The Super Nintendo Classic is connected to my TV via HDMI. Super Star Wars follows the events of A New Hope, following in the footsteps of Luke Skywalker first, then Han Solo and Chewbacca once you've unlocked them. Fight through the Sandcrawler and defeat the lava beast Jowenko. Fight exploding banthas and drain the tractor beam power level, just like in the movies.
What do you mean there's no lava beast powering the Sandcrawler? The tractor beam didn't try and shoot Obi-Wan? No exploding banthas?
As you're probably noticing, this game only loosely follows the movie. This game came out in an era where video game tie-ins didn't really follow the movies. Super Star Wars is more faithful than some others, but still takes some liberties. Honestly though, who wants to play as droids wandering through a desert or just walking up and shutting off the tractor beam? Super Star Wars throws you right into the action, blasting your way through the Dune Sea until you find an escape pod with a frantic C-3PO pleading for your help to find R2-D2 who's been captured by Jawas. After a quite awesome land speed level, bullseyeing Womprats and Jawas, you come across the Jawas in question and fight your way to the basement of the Sandcrawler to rescue R2. R2 sets you on the path to find Ben Kenobi, which leads you to Han Solo, the Death Star, rescuing Princess Leia, disabling the tractor beam and delivering the secret Death Star plans to Yavin 4. From there, the last two levels recreate the Death Star run, including the famous trench run. Right from the start, I got a shot of nostalgia directly into a vein. It is just how I remembered it. As I continued to play through it though, I realised, oh god, it's exactly how I remember it. Goddamn hard! Enemies spawn at a ridiculous rate. If you retreat or turn back for even 1 second, they will return for revenge. And when you get to Mos Eisley, enemies start dropping from the goddamn sky! Combine this with how enemies and shrapnel can push you around and you're gonna have a bad time. More than once I got pushed off the auto-scrolling parts of the Land of the Sand People and Land of the Bantha levels. Plus the randomly dropping stormtroopers in the Death Star hangar bay almost pushed me into all of the holes. The timer doesn't do anything except add to your score at the end of the game. How do I know that, do you ask? Because as a kid, I spent so much time climbing up and falling down the outside Sandcrawler level because of respawning enemies and shrapnel from Jawa hand grenades that I ran the damn thing down to zero! But the thing that makes this game harder by a country parsec is how the blaster upgrades work. There's 5 different blaster power-ups: Blaster, Flame, Seeker, Rapid Iron, and Plasma, with Blaster being the weakest and Plasma being the strongest. When you die, you go right back to Blaster. When you get to the later levels where the enemies are a lot stronger, hell even in some of the earlier levels, Blaster just does not cut it. Your life is suddenly a lot harder. I was so happy to be playing this on the SNES Classic and have access to save states, otherwise I would have raged at this a lot more than I did. It feels like the devs realised this though. It's a few levels in, Luke gets a lightsaber, which deals a lot more damage than the blaster, and when you eventually get Han and Chewie, they start with flame instead. But going from plasma to blaster or flame is a big penalty in a game where you can get randomly pushed off the edge. The game is well presented though, and the trench run is amazingly well presented for an almost 30-year-old game. The Super Nintendo's Mode 7 graphics chip makes the land speeder and X-Wing levels look as good as they do, and the enemies and playable characters are instantly recognisable as Star Wars. It does ask a lot of the Super Nintendo though, and there are multiple points where the game lags, especially when you've got the Seeker blaster power up and lots of shrapnel going everywhere. And why the hell does everything in this game have to explode? This game is exactly how I remember it, and that's not a particularly good thing. This game is hard. Losing your blaster power up when you die is punishing, and dealing with shrapnel and randomly falling stormtroopers will ruin your day pretty quick. I only played this through on easy and have absolutely no desire to play on Brave or Jedi. I have never broken a controller and I don't intend to start now. A lot of what I've said has cast this game in a negative light, and I should say that I had fun playing through Super Star Wars again, but I think my enjoyment comes from a place of nostalgia. I loved this game as a kid and spent so much time with it. This was the game where I learnt to leave on a console overnight because there was no save files. But even the fact I needed to do that speaks to how hard it is and how grueling it is to get through the levels. With that in mind, I give Super Star Wars my rating of Return to Tatooine.
There we go. Got it. Gone for all money. Oh yeah. There we go. Now you can explode. Now you have my permission to explode. Oh yeah. Just. That seemed a bit weird for me. There we go. Gotcha. Now, ha! Great shot, kid. That was 1 in a million.